matters: be heard. Welcome to the podcast where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes tips to make your own show sound truly spectacular. This is Podtastic Audio.
Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? How's your podcast coming along? I am Chris, and I am from the original Chris and Christine Show podcast. You can find out every single thing you want to know about that show on over at the website, which I've created by hand, all by myself. Check that out at chrisandchristineshow.com, and there's a link to that into the show notes of this episode. You just scroll on down, and there they are. Ta-da! So, welcome to podcasting, and welcome to Podtastic Audio, I should say. And today is going to be a very fun day. I am back in the regular studio. Might sound a little better. I'm back on the Rodecaster Pro 2, talking into the broadcast microphone, coming to you live from San Diego, California. Well, actually, not really live, but you get the point. So anyways, today, it's all about putting your podcast to bed. What? I'm talking about a music bed, that is. Now, what is a music bed? Do you even need a music bed for your podcast? Should you even have music for your podcast? Where do you even find music for your podcast? Well, there's a plethora of places to find music, but today, the music that I've been finding, the music that I like to get for the podcast, I go to my YouTube Music Studio library. If you have a Gmail account or a YouTube channel, which usually kind of go hand in hand, and there is a YouTube Studio Creators page, which has tons of music that they let you play in your YouTube videos. Now, it's up to debate whether or not you can use these for a podcast, but the way I look at it is like this. If it's okay for the very strict YouTube guidelines to play inside a YouTube video, then I cannot see why there'd be a problem. You could probably play this in a podcast, I would assume, and I've been doing it for years, and hey, I've never had any problem. But if you really, really want to have personal music for your podcast, you're going to have to hire a musician to actually play something for you. But the problem is that there's only so many different variations of notes out there, or chords. I heard, I think it's like 8 or 10 different chords, and every song you really hear is just kind of a combination of those variations of chords. So theoretically, almost everything's been taped and everything's been recorded. So theoretically, almost every piece of music out there is somebody owns the rights to, or at least the melody of it. So it's kind of hard to really come up with something that's truly unique these days. For the most part, almost everything's been taped already. So, like I said before, your podcast is your podcast. You can do it however you want to do it. It's your show. Don't let me or anybody else tell you exactly how to do your own show. If you're having fun and whatever you're doing is working for you, then just keep doing it and enjoy it. You will learn as you grow, and you will just continue to get better the more you do this. I know the very first time I did any of this kind of stuff, I was a fumbling wreck. I didn't know what I was doing or what to say or how to say things, and I still have problems from time to time getting the microphone going and talking into this thing. I make it sound like it's easy for me to do this. I make it look easy, but deep down inside, it's tricky at times to get a podcast up and running. So today we're talking about music beds, how to actually make one. Do you even need one? Now, if you're not familiar with what a music bed is, it's actually a section of music that is like a bed that you talk on top of. That's the basic words I can say to describe it. So music beds are actually big and popular in the radio business. If you ever listen to the regular terrestrial radio and you ever heard, say, the traffic announcer for either the morning drive or the afternoon drive, they'll have, now here's so-and-so with traffic, and they'll play their traffic report. And during the traffic report, there's always, guaranteed, without a doubt, always a bed of music being played slightly below the announcer calling all the traffic. Now, radio has been doing this for years. It's always been a big thing. I remember when I was in radio, we actually had these music bed on carts. Now, if you know what a cart is, it's like an 8-track tape player. What's an 8-track? Well, it's like a cassette tape. What's a cassette tape? Okay, it's actually audio. It's on a tape reel, and these carts would just kind of go in a big circle, big loop. They're like a 1 minute, 2 minute, whatever they are, and the music bed would just play. And then as it played, you would talk whatever you're talking about while the cart was playing underneath you to kind of give you a little a little, someone to support you while you talk. Because, one thing I know about music beds and with music is that it can kind of hide a little bit of the imperfections in the audio of your audio files. I kind of noticed that a little bit. I've used a lot of music when it comes to creating like promos or intros or especially promo type stuff, But I know that if you're using it for like short time, like let's say you're doing like a 20-second or a 30-second like promo spot, then, playing a song or a section of song during that section would work just fine. But what if you have like, say, a 30, 40, 50-minute podcast and you want to have a music bed that lasts that entire section? Well, obviously there's no song available that's 50 minutes long. So what do? If you want to have that entire like rhythm song playing during the time of your whole entire podcast. Now, just so we're clear here, playing music for the entirety of your entire podcast, no matter how long it is, I think it can get kind of distracting. So you really have to play with the volume level on the music. I would not have it too loud that it distracts the people from listening to what you're actually saying. But you don't want it so low you kind of don't hear it. It's like really a faint whisper in the background. And you obviously want it there, but you don't want it to be overpowering the things you're saying. And like I said, it does kind of hide some of the imperfections. Like if you accidentally bump a microphone, or maybe there's some plosives on the microphone and things like that, the music can hide some of those things. And I like it, but then I don't always like to use it. So it's really up to you whether you want to use it or not. So what I'm going to do is I've actually made 2 different music beds from 2 different songs. And I'm going to play these songs and play the music bed. And then I'm going to tell you how I made the music bed and how you can make a music bed doing this very same thing I did. You can use this and put it in practice for your show. And you can make this music bed as long as you want, and it'll sound great, whether it's a 5-minute show, a 10-minute show, or even a 1-hour show. It's going to sound flawless all the way through. The entire song is going to play nonstop, and it's going to sound as if it never stops. The music isn't going to stop. That's basically what it comes down to. Now, here is the first song. I got this song, like I said, off the YouTube Studio Creators page. This is where this music all came from. Both these songs came from that today. I just downloaded these today. So here is the first song to give you an idea what the song sounds like before I actually made a music bed out of it. Here's the first song. And I know that when you hear songs like this, they are a little bit easier, I noticed, to make music beds out of, because what you're really looking for is the up and the down of the beat. When the beat goes up and the beat goes down, you kind of find those spots to really make your cut and your edits. So this is the song in its regular form. So I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to play you the actual music bed that I created. This music bed's probably, I think, maybe a 7 or 10 second clip just on repeat, and I made the cut seem like you don't even notice the cut's even there. So this is what it sounds like on my music bed I made of that same song. Now, I think it's gone over the cut a few different times already since you've been listening to this right now. This is the music bed that I've made, just tonight, playing around with this thing. It didn't take me very long to make this. Now, this music bed, I made it go about, I think it's about a minute, almost 2 minutes, about a minute and a half long for this music bed. But like I said, you can make it as long as you want or as short as you want, however long your podcast actually is, if you want to create a music bed for your podcast. Let me stop this one. Okay, now here is the other song I put together. Now, this song, it sounds very similar. I noticed when I was playing with these tonight that this type of music, this pop kind of music, seemed a little easier to create the music bed out of than something a little more dramatic, I noticed. But you get to really play with it. I'll tell you how to do it when we're done. But here's that second song right here. Now, this is playing it from the very beginning of the song. So this is what it sounds like at the very beginning. So you kind of get an idea what the song sounds like. This is what it sounds like being played from start to finish, just playing the song. This is what it sounds like. And I'm going to stop this right here. And this is the actual music bed I made. This music bed is 1 minute, 12 seconds long. But like I said, you can make these as long as you want. And this is the music bed I made out of that song. As you can tell, it's just repeating itself over and over again. That's exactly what you want to do with a music bed. You stop this. So your music bed is basically there to just kind of like lay your audio on top of it, and it can go as long as you want or as short as you want. And how did I do that out of those two songs? How did I pull that off? Using Audacity, which is totally free. Anybody can get Audacity for your Mac, your PC, your Linux, whatever you want. I would suggest getting Audacity, even if you have like your favorite audio editing software, whether you use Audition or Reaper or you use Hindenburg or Adobe, whatever you use, get yourself a free copy. They're updating Audacity every single day with new features and new things you can do. And it's great. I highly suggest you picking yourself up a copy of Audacity, even if you don't use it, because you just never know. You might actually like it. And it's always good to have multiple tools in your tool chest, which would be your editing software to create your podcast. And I think for any podcaster, it's great. So how did I do this? What I use to pull this off? So first things first, we're talking about editing music. Now, editing music is different than editing a vocal podcast. You see, when you edit your audio of your podcast and you're just talking into the microphone, you see little waves of you talking, and you see little spots where you're not talking, and there's little peaks and valleys, right? So if you want to cut out a word, you like put the little cursor between the bottom of the valley, you highlight over the peak where the word was, and you find the other break, and then you highlight that little section, and you just delete it, remove it, gone. And then it kind of closes the gap. And then as you talk, it sounds like you didn't miss a beat because the words are easier to edit out than music is. Now, music is a lot trickier to do because you got the rhythm and you got the beat and you got to really listen back and forth and really fine tune this thing. So how did I do it in Audacity? Now, Audacity, there was an update recently to it. And I do not know if this feature was in Audacity when they did the new update. I think it was always there, but I just never really needed to use it. I was like, what do I need to use this feature for? And I'm talking about the repeat feature. It's under the special tools. You click on the little thing, you go on down under special tools. There was a section for repeat. And of course you have to click and highlight, or at least click the section of audio you want to repeat. So first thing I did was I had to really fine tune the section of the song I really wanted to repeat over and over again. Now, when you're doing this, I would try to keep it to like 5 to 10 second section. The reason why you keep it that short of a section is because any longer than that, then the rhythm could really change and offset your repeat mode. Because if it sounds like it's kind of sweeping up and then sweeping back down, and then you're trying to splice like a down section with an up section, it doesn't quite sound quite right. And I said some of these music, with the music that has more of a poppier beat to the rhythm of the song, it has lots of peaks and valleys with it, and you really can use those to your advantage when you're splicing these two things together. So you have to find a start and an end. And that can be a little tricky. You really have to play with it. Once you figure out the spot you want to start on and then you find the spot you want to end on, what I did is you click on the repeat section I said in Audacity. Now, you want to do a couple sample test runs with this to make sure that when you line them up right, that they do sound like they're spliced together correctly. Now, this is where you got to get in there, really fine tune these things and really trim and find the sweet spot to where the song sounds like it started and ended in the same spot. So that's what you do is I did it like 3 times. So I did 3 repeats of that 5-second song just to kind of like feel like, does that sound like it's right? You can just do it one time really. And does it sound like when you press play and the 2 songs go together, does it sound like they are continuing on the same song? And it's as if the musician didn't stop playing. It just kept on going like one final track. Does it sound like that? That is what I had to figure out. Now, once I had it figured out that it sounded that way, I hit the back button because I wanted to get rid of the other 2 tracks. I went back into repeat mode and I added like 10 versions of it, right? But you can do as many as you want. You just type in how many versions you want. So you have the track is say 5-7 seconds long and you do 100 version of that. Whatever the math is on that, that could be, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But say you needed like an hour show. I don't even know how you even figure that out. You'd have to figure out what would be 7 seconds. Well, first I had to figure out like how many 7-second clips can go into an hour show, do the math on that, and then type that number in. And it should, in theory, I never tried that long of a music bed, but in theory, it should give you a music bed for that entire time. Now, once you have that audio file, you save it as an MP3 or whatever you do. And then when you create your podcast, you can easily drop that audio file in underneath you. So you have it and it's always there ready to go. If you do your podcast for say an hour or half an hour, however long you do it, that's essentially how you can create a music bed with Audacity for free. And it sounds great. And like almost all the tools I show you here on Podcasting Audio, all the stuff we did today was entirely free. Totally free. I did it on the free Audacity. I grabbed free music off the YouTube studio channel thing. And then I did it all myself just like that. Easy peasy. And it works. And I figured out how to do it. So if you're looking for, say, a music bed for your podcast, and your podcast is longer than the normal 3-minute song or whatever your song usually is, and you want the thing to be that one little sweet spot of the song and just repeat over and over again for the entire length of your show, you just go to Audacity. You got to fine tune the right section, and then you just cut it and make sure you hit repeat as many times as it needs to be the length of your podcast. That's all there is to it. That's exactly how I did it. And you can do it too for your show. It's really up to you. But be careful when you do music beds for your podcast because it could be a little distracting depending on the type of music and how loud the music is playing throughout the entire show. You don't want the music to distract the listener from actually listening to your content, unless your content is the music, but I don't think it would be. It probably would if you're talking about. But have fun. I look at podcasting as a fun tool, a fun hobby that could lead to a business. It could lead to a company. It could lead to different things. You just never know where your podcast will lead you. And you never know who's listening because the person listening to your show really loves listening to your show. They come for you. I mean, your content's great, but they really come for you and what you have to say. And don't disappoint them, appreciate every listener you have. Don't get hung up on the numbers and hung up on different things. Don't worry about that stuff. Podcasting can be fun or it can be not so much fun. It all just depends on the way you look at it, because I like to have fun with podcasting. Podcasting brings me so much joy. Creating podcasts, talking about podcasting. That's why I started the show in the first place, was to, talk about podcasting and kind of help anybody out because people would ask me questions like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And this is all here for you for free. That's why I do this show, is to help you out. In a sea of about a couple million podcasts out there, how do you make your show stand out? How do you make your show not say better, but how do you make your show different? think different. You always think about the old Apple like logo or slogan used to have was always like think different. When it comes to podcasting, I always kind of think like, don't do the exact same thing everybody else is doing. Do something different and you will draw a crowd of people that really gravitate towards you and the things that you want to talk about, and the things that inspire you might inspire them. So think about that when you make your next episode. Don't try to just copy the next guy that's doing the same thing. Well, they do it this way. I got to do it that way too. Or, I know that's big with video and video type shows and the Zoom shows and a lot of the interview style shows. A lot of them, they sound the same. They look the same. They sound the same. How is it any different than the next person? Maybe using a music bed of some sort, maybe throughout the show, might spice things up a little bit. You never know. It's like throwing spice into your kitchen, whatever you're cooking, Spice it up. Make it fun. Hey, thanks again for listening. I am also on social media. Yeah, check that out. You can find me on Twitter on Podtastic A. And if you go over to the gram, that is the Instagram, you can find me under Podtastic Audio. Very simple. Give me a follow, give me a like, and so I will catch you on the next episode.